Hey people, my weirdos. It's me. I'm back. I'm super happy to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Whiskey and Weird. It's been a while. Well, I did an episode. I don't know. Was that like last month sometime with my boss and friend Sandy Clemens? Um, but it's been a while since I just showed up here and talked all my weird stuff. I'm. It's like it's been a weird few months. I'm in a new place now. Many of you know that. Maybe you don't, but I'm now in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and had to get some kind of living situation all sorted and figured out. And so um, I did that. And you know what? I just realized we want to make sure to record this for everyone who's going to listen in later, right? I am so off my game, you guys. Crazy, crazy, crazy off my game. But I hope I get some people on here. Again, really excited to have you guys here. So, hey everybody, saying hi again. Welcome into Whiskey and Weird. Gosh, this is kind of the start of our new season. Say hi, you guys, if you're chiming in. Those of you who are listening later, thanks for being here. I'm super happy to be on tonight. It's been a little weird for me lately, a little crazy, a little inconsistent. But I love this. This just kind of grounds me. Lets me talk about weird stuff that I'm thinking about sometimes and connect with my fellow weirdos out there. Speaking of the word weird, has anyone come across when you're on social media and you use that word and they try to put you in Facebook jail, which is really stupid, right? And I mean, I get it if you're using it in a derogatory way, but it so often is not used in a derogatory way, like how we use it here. Like it's kind of a celebration, right? In fact, I those of you who have watched from the beginning know that it's really something about this show is about celebrating what makes each of us weird, a little different, a little unique, sets us apart from the rest of the world. And that it's a really important thing. It's something really unique to each of us. And it could be a collection of things, might be one in particular thing. It might be a physical attribute. It might be, I don't know, a talent, a skill, just the way we think about the world. It can be anything. And I think just in a nutshell, it's about just showing up as authentic as you possibly can. If you follow my page on Facebook, you would have maybe seen that I shared that I listened to an episode of Bigfoot and Beyond this last week. And it was the episode with John E.L. Tenney on it. Love that guy. If you don't know who he is, go look him up. John E.L. Tenney. Super cool. I've always thought I would just love to sit around and smoke cigarettes and drink whiskey and talk all night with this guy until, who knows what about all the things, right? Not even just weird things, but all the things. But he said a few things that really resonated with me on that show. One, he was talking about the definition of weird and brought up the old English version, WYRD, which has to do with being able to control destiny. And it was originally used to refer to the fates or witches, which is a really unique and cool kind of perspective and idea, I think. But, it can be bizarre things, can be supernatural, refer to the supernatural. But I think it is become a more mainstream word, but in a good way. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. So, Facebook, get it together, really. And let's stop using the term weird to put people down. I mean, I do it sometimes too, like, oh my God, that was so weird. And then I'm like, wait, weird's cool. So then that must be cool then, right? Anyway, just weird, stay weird, be weird, do your weird. All of that is what we're celebrating here. We often actually talk about really weird topics that a lot of people don't like to address, which makes this kind of fun. Anyway, if you're on, you guys, hi. I'm happy to be here. If you're here, say hi so I know you're here. Let me know what you're drinking tonight. Of course, I have a new whiskey to taste with y'all. And I'm going to do that in just a minute. But we're here. We're going to talk about cryptids tonight. And I'll give a little note in a second about why I thought of that. But you know what? Let's get started. Let's get started with whiskey. And hopefully some people will show up. I purposefully tagged a lot of people because last time I went on, everyone said, oh my gosh, I forgot you were on. So I probably just need to get back to being really regular with this again. I haven't in a while, but I haven't had a solid place to do it. Not 100% sure about this place and doing it, but I am, and I'm here, and I get on here, try to keep myself accountable. And a friend reminded me today, you have to do this because you told people you were, and you kind of set it all up. So here I am. I'm happy to be here, and yeah, let's talk about cryptids. Well, I'm going to talk about cryptids. Maybe no one else is going to talk about it with me, but that's cool. But first, let's have a little whiskey. Again, if you guys are just chiming in, welcome to Whiskey and Weird. It's the beginning of a new season. Honestly, I have no idea what episode this is. I know that's really silly, but does it really even matter? I don't think it does. So anyway, I was having a look around the liquor store today. I have been drinking some whiskey lately. And actually this week was sipping a little Crown Royal because it's what I had around. And so I decided I would look for some Canadian whiskey because I don't believe I've tried any Canadian whiskey on the show. And so actually I just went with some Pendleton, good old Pendleton. I'm very familiar with Pendleton. Not something I generally drink, really. But it hails from Hood River, Oregon, but it's all Canadian, or whiskey's distilled in Canada. So it's a Canadian varietal, right? And this is just their basic one. They have a few different. They have a rye. I'm not really into rye. But I kind of love the story. The whole thing behind Pendleton is about honoring the American cowboy and cowgirl. There's a cool little rodeo bucking horse on the front. And just kind of the hard work of people who used to work the land in that way and still do today, right? So they come from Hood River, Oregon, and the whiskey is held in oak barrels, American oak barrels, and then they actually add glacier fed water. So water from Mount Hood is added to all of their whiskeys, which is pretty cool. So yeah, true Western tradition, it says. That's pretty cool. Who can't appreciate a good cowboy, right? So I'm gonna do my thing here. This has been a while. It's gonna be super fun. Put my nose in there. Let's see. There's something very, I don't know, fall-like. I don't know, spicy maybe. My nose is a little bit stuffy. I think I have a cold. Not COVID, just a cold. Anyway, I'm not getting too much in my nose, but that could be because I'm a little stuffed up. So we'll see what happens. Pour a little in my glass here. Now this is a blended. Those of you know I don't, and I think a lot of Canadian whiskeys, right, are blended. I don't always do blended whiskeys because of a gluten sensitivity, a wheat gluten or wheat, whatever. I don't really know 100% what it is, but one of those things messes with my enzymes. So I don't always drink a lot of blended because it will often have wheat in it. There are whiskeys out there that are totally safe to drink. I'm not gonna lie, it smells a lot like alcohol. I'm not getting a lot of much of anything. There's a little fruit, a little fruity, and I still a little spicy. Let's see. I'm not really impressed with the nose on this. But people who drink Pendleton regularly might be like, yeah, no duh. I don't know. I don't usually. Mm. Hmm. Ooh, really pretty mild finish, but really caramely. It was really, really sweet and caramely to me, like particularly, which I didn't get in my nose at all. It was not unpleasant. Let's try a little more. How about we do? Mm. It's a little viscous too. Like feels a little waxy in my mouth. Not overly, but a little more than a lot of the whiskeys I've been drinking. Yeah, not too bad. It's kind of sweet. It's got a caramely to it. So I'm gonna sip on that. And you guys, when you come on, you let me know what you're drinking. If you do come on, maybe you won't. But you know what? I'm really good at talking all by myself. I know somebody's watching, and they're not chiming in to say hi to me. I'm really offended. No, not really. Not really offended. But anyway, I want to talk about cryptids and how did I decide? Because my way of coming up with topics is pretty random and no straightforward reason for it. Uh, in the beginning, of course, if you haven't listened into all the early episodes, I started off with just all the crazy, weird stuff that just exists in my life and what makes me weird. But one of the things that makes me weird is I like to think about crazy things in the world that people may or may not believe in, or just seem kind of out there. I think it's really fascinating to contemplate such things. So, went and saw a movie called Antlers, and that movie, of course, is about a Wendigo, which is popular in Native American lore. It's kind of a creature, essentially, that's created out of. It's a shapeshifter, and it's created out of or feeds off of evil or the darkness that dwells within people, and then has to literally feed off of that. So but kind of creepy. They tend to be depicted with these huge, like, kind of half animal half human, but with huge antlers, which is the name of the movie. And that movie it was like ridiculously great. That's the way I've described it. It was kind of fun to watch, kind of silly at times because it was a horror film and they're all silly, right? In some places. But yeah, so Wendigo, of course, being a cryptid, by definition, cryptids are animals whose existence are yet to be substantiated, which I think is kind of a vague thing because I think that there are probably animals out there that somebody has seen, scientists have seen, have noted, who wouldn't that we wouldn't necessarily put into a cryptid kind of grouping, right? Because most cryptids tend to be something really unusual, something perhaps perceived as supernatural. The Bigfoot is sometimes lumped into that, but there is actually a lot of science behind Bigfoot. And that I'm not sure if that would really match a cryptid because as unusual as it is being a big, hairy, human looking thing, it's not unlike things that already exist in the world. And there have been so many people who have claimed to bear witness to one, or to hear them. And I don't know, as I've said on here before, I tend to believe people. I believe people believe the things that they tell us, that they witness. And who am I to say that, no, you didn't see a Bigfoot? If you really believe you did, then maybe you did, right? But so Bigfoot, I'm not sure. I mean, they often get lumped into the cryptid category, but I'm not sure I would put it there. But I'm not really sure where I would put it. We've talked Sasquatch on here before, and there's so many ideas behind who or what the Sasquatch is, right? Is it alien? Is it just an ape that we haven't, a hominid that we have not yet discovered, really, in all the ways that science wants us to discover it, right? I mean, we've found fur, we've found footprints that we believe are that, but until we actually have a body in hand, nobody will ever believe that it's for real. But there's also the idea of maybe they're aliens. Maybe they travel from a different time. Maybe they are actually beings that existed on this earth at one time and somehow get here through a portal. Nobody really knows, but there's a lot of really cool ideas out there about what it might be. And this is why I do this. I just think it's really cool to consider these different options. When I listened to this podcast, Beyond Bigfoot, the other day with Cliff Barrickman and Bobo, they were talking about how oftentimes people see those see glowing lights, and that could be an indicator somehow of what they really are, whether that could be an alien or some indicator that they're ghosts. This was another thing that came up on that story or that podcast, is the idea that something like a Bigfoot might just be a ghost of something that existed again a long time ago. Why not? But that brings us to all these other different kind of cryptids that people have claimed to witness for thousands of years. I mean, just like Bigfoot, if you listen to the lore, and you look at pictures and the stories written on cave walls and things like that, there's Dogman, there's Bigfoot, there's aliens, there's all sorts of crazy creatures. And people have been seeing them for a long time. So why is it that people see a half man, half dog? Why is it that people say that they saw a werewolf? What the heck was Mothman? Because that was a pretty big deal, something that kind of came and went. People are waiting for something like that to happen again. Wendigo, Chupacabra, all these different things that people claim to see. They're all over the place. So if you're listening, a couple of you listening, what kind of cryptids do you wonder about? Do you think are even possible? Right? I think, I think anything's possible, really. And I think there are certainly things out there. Now, this idea of a ghost seems really fascinating, because we certainly know that energy doesn't go away, right? So there's your argument for ghosts, is that when we pass, we leave energy behind, and that energy most likely can be perceived in some way. Anything that lives on the earth, anything that lives leaves energy behind. Could we see a ghost of a plant? That would be weird, right? But people claim to see ghosts of dogs and, cats, especially. I think those things particularly because they would have been connected and be a part of maybe some human emotional bonding that might keep them around in a different way. I don't know. But could it be that Dog Man or these different things, even Loch Ness Monster? Maybe he's just a ghost of a creature that existed on this earth. It's very likely that something like the Loch Ness Monster did exist on this earth at some point. There have been huge creatures. There are still parts of the ocean that is yet to be discovered. And along the lines of the Loch Ness Monster, some people claim that they could actually get into Loch Ness via caves and come from deeper parts of the ocean. Now, why they would only show up there, I don't know, but there could be um, some sort of return. Like how salmon go back to, they get back. A lot of creatures do that. They go back to the place they were born. Penguins, and they always return to their home, if you will. So maybe there's something to that. With the Loch Ness monster. I love how my brain works because I never really thought of that before, and I love when I'm just talking and how things just come up. So, if you're listening, if you're watching, say hi. Tell me what cryptids you're thinking about, or what you think are absolutely ridiculous and there's no way in hell they could exist, or what maybe there's one I haven't mentioned. There's a lot of different ones out there. The other idea around these different creatures, and this was one that came from John Tenney too, when he was talking about different cryptids and things on that podcast I was listening to, was this idea that that maybe they are just kind of let's see if I can get this right, just kind of manifestations of like almost like genetic memory of things that may have existed before, or just almost, and maybe some level of a thought form, something that's not right there, but we've thought about it, and there's been these different things that have come together. And so in this emotional moment in the dark where we can't see, we put these things together, or something comes to the surface. Maybe there's this genetic memory of being in a similar situation, and we're seeing something maybe that existed generations and generations ago, but no longer does exist today. So just lots of weird, crazy ideas. Now, I think what's interesting about that, and I have said on here before, and one idea that I think about the paranormal and how we experience it uniquely, is that those experiences are intended for us. And so what we see is meant to have meaning for us, whether that be an experience with a ghost, whether it be with a Sasquatch, with an alien. There's meaning in there that's meant for us, in how that interaction happens and why we are the ones experiencing it in that moment. So seeing things like a dog man or a werewolf or chupacabra, wendigo, whatever it is, what about something maybe we're dealing with in our life would lend itself to that? What would get us to this point? There's also just the idea of how the imagination works, right? Like when the lights go out and there are shadows, there's reasons we see things in the dark, because maybe they're on the mind. When we're kids, we watch movies and then we really think we see something in the dark. So there's all sorts of things that we can chat about in terms of why people see cryptids. But I think, when you have a place in the world, like look at Mothman, and multiple people witnessed this thing in a very similar fashion. Same thing as whenever you have sightings of a dog man or even a werewolf, there's multiple people in that area that have witnessed it in that same place. So, to me, that kind of lends itself to the fact that might have been something much more physical than just something created in the mind. But then, there's also these different ideas, like how can an egregore or a tulpa come into play with these kinds of things, like just physical manifestations of a story that has been told for 1,000 years, right? These different things can be created. So I don't know. Cryptids are pretty cool, fascinating thing to consider. And I'm not sure that they are actually something we will ever be able to prove. I don't know. And do we need to? I mean, if we really get to the idea of the possibility that these are manifestations of stories, of genetic memory, of anything like that, things that are just meant for us. It wouldn't stand to reason that we would ever actually catch a werewolf or have that kind of thing. But what a fascinating thing though to consider, even if it doesn't really exist today, that it may have existed here in some other way. I want to know whether you're listening now or you're listening later, like, what do you think about cryptids? Like, do you think these are just kind of thought forms, physical manifestations of stories or thoughts that that have come from the collective, or maybe they're aliens? The whole Sasquatch thing of these creatures actually being of a different time, right? Or like traveling through portals. Like, what do you think about all of that? I'm curious. If you don't chime in now, it's totally cool, but you can chime in later when you listen in. But yeah, fascinating stuff. I think that cryptids, this could be a conversation because there's so many versions of them, and they all seem to be like blends of different things, right? Like werewolf is half man, half wolf, right? Turns into that. There's the dog man that is a man half dog. I heard a story the other day. It might have been on that podcast. That there was a lot of great stuff in there. You guys, you should check out it. It's called Bigfoot and Beyond. And obviously, this episode that I was listening to was more of a beyond issue, but it was really cool. But they were telling a story about someone who saw a dog man, and oftentimes people will see them on 2 feet for a brief period of time, but for the most part, they get around. They present more like a dog. But this guy said that he was on his farm and was walking out on his land and looked out by this fence, and he thought there was a guy just kind of leaning back. You put your arms on the fence and leaning back and chilling out. And as he got closer, the thing literally went on all fours and just leapt over this fence like an animal and took off running. So people's experiences are so crazy around these things. And as I said before, like, I believe people. Like, can you imagine like seeing something like that and having to try to explain that, or even just explain it to yourself? Like what the fuck did I just see? And why? And that is the important question. Why did I just see this? Why me? Why now? I think there's a lot in that particular question, and a lot of meaning in the notion of the fact that not everyone sees these things, right? Maybe the meaning is there. Maybe the meaning is in the fact that we don't always experience things, and that one person can experience the very same thing in multiple ways. I mean, I think about, I told these stories. If you haven't listened before, go back to the early episodes and talking about the ghosts that were in the home that I previously lived in. And my kids and I believed that it might be the spirit of the man who owned the house before. But each of us in that space experienced him in a very different way. It was similar enough and happened, and there were certain things that overlapped for us. But why is it? Why is it that some people will hear someone talking, or some people will see the black shadow figures, or that kind of thing? Like, I really think that there's something behind that. And I'd love to have a meet and greet. We've talked about this, so you guys chime in if you're listening later. I think it'd be really cool to actually meet up with people and talk about these different ideas that come to play around these different belief systems and these different cryptids and all these different supernatural, paranormal things that exist in the world. And kind of talk about what our own experiences and get at the heart of maybe why, like what was going on in my life when I saw that Bigfoot, or why do I see or experience ghosts at certain times, and all of that. I think the why is really important. I think that's what we're missing. I don't think it's the whether or not it's true. It's the why. Why would we have that experience to begin with? And no, I don't think it's because people are mentally ill. I think maybe they might see that, but you know what? I tend to think that people who get labeled as like schizophrenic or those kinds of things, people hearing voices, who are we to say that they actually aren't? Like maybe they something's opened up for them. And you know what? If you were hearing voices all the time in your head that weren't there, you'd probably go crazy too. Like people that weren't there and seeing things. So I don't know. I think that stuff can be really I don't know, thought provoking, and I love it. But we should get together. So when you're listening later, like I hope you will, and you're watching, let me know what you think about that. And if you're interested in getting on here with me and talking about it, maybe you've had an experience, or maybe there's a particular cryptid that you're totally into and you want to chat more about or share with us. People know a lot about certain things. I tend to be the person who likes to know a little about a lot of things. But some people really hold on. Obviously there are, and I guess if I had to choose one thing, the whole ghost spirit thing would be mine. A Bigfoot maybe next. But I think it's all really fascinating, and I don't certainly pretend to be an expert in any of it, right? Maybe more than an enthusiast, but not quite an expert. Wouldn't mind being an expert in it someday. But if you are an expert on a cryptid or a particular enthusiast about something like that, let me know. I'd love to have you on the show. I want to hear your thoughts and your ideas about that. You can sip some whiskey with me. But yeah, let's find a way to get more people involved in these conversations, because it's kind of more fun. Like, I'm not going to lie. This is really hard for me to just keep talking, and people, I will keep talking, but it's more fun when people are engaging with me. And so maybe we'll have to do a cryptids part 2. But let me know, ask your questions. Post them here when you're listening later. And maybe also give me some suggestions for whiskeys to try. I'd love to hear people's favorites. If you have ideas, you can send me one too. I do like to get gifts of whiskey. Or what? Yeah, let me know. The other thing, I got a memory of last year when my friend Sean came on, and we did some cool festive drinks for the holidays, some whiskey-based drinks. So if there's anyone out there that would like to come on and do that with me, maybe right before Christmas, let's do it. So I don't know what day is it? It's the 8th. So like the 22nd, maybe December 22nd, Wednesday night, if you want to come on, and let's try some cool whiskey concoctions, cocktails for the holidays. Let's do that. And you can tell me what you want to talk about, what weird thing you want to talk about. There's always something really weird. I think a cool future topic could be really the notion of egregores and tulpas. And if you watch Kindred Spirits, they have a really great episode where they basically proved that a ghost in this house was not actually a ghost, but a thought form that was created by the stories and the beliefs of the people that went through it. It was really, really fascinating. So there's another idea. But let me know. What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to what do you want more of? I'm looking into maybe doing some investigating myself here. And I don't know, would it be cool to bring you along on an investigation? What do you think about that? I got to get my foot in the door somewhere, but that could be kind of cool. Probably wouldn't drink a lot of whiskey on that, because I wouldn't want to to mess with that whole situation, but maybe whiskey after. So anyway, let me know. But I am going to call it good here tonight because it's more fun when you people show up and hang out with me. And so hopefully you will come back and find me. I know that I need to be more regular with this, and I've been gone for a long time. But and maybe Wednesdays aren't great. So let me know if there's a better night. I don't do weekends because people are usually busy. But if there's a better night of the week where we can show up and you can hang out with me, let's do that. So until then, I'll be back. I'll be back next Wednesday. I'm not sure what I'll be talking about, but count on it. Put it on your calendar or something. And then the following Wednesday, somebody can show up and do some cocktails with me. So if you want to be a guest on the show and we'll drink some cocktails together and talk about whatever makes you weird, let's do that. But in the meantime, share with your friends if you like what we talk about, or you know someone who wants to talk about these things too. Please like, share, all of that. You can do that here on Facebook. You can do it on Instagram, on Twitter, and then of course, please go and follow my YouTube page, Whiskey and Weird. All these things are really helpful to me trying to reach more people. And I know there's a lot of weirdos out there that just want to do this and hang out and talk about stuff. Hi, Lisa. But anyway, I am going to go. I'm glad you're here. I don't know if you're the one who's been hanging out, but I'm going to call it a night, and maybe we can get together again another time, and talk cryptids, right? Lisa, you want to do that? Do it again. Maybe Lisa, you can come on and do some, well, you can't. We'll talk about that later, but we can do some cryptid talking. But yeah, you guys, thanks for watching later. Do share with people that you think might like this conversation. And those of you who do chime in, whether now or watching later, thank you. I appreciate you. And just know that I'm getting back into it more regularly now. So I'm going to be showing up every Wednesday. And I'm trying to make some lists of some cool things to consider. But as I said, I like it when it kind of happens organically. It's a little more fun. Love you too, Lisa. I'm glad you were here. Thanks for listening. And be sure and type in, if you go back and listen, answer some of the questions I asked along the way, and maybe we can use it to do Cryptids Part 2 next week. So ask your questions, leave your comments, and let's get back together. And in the meantime, share, go follow or subscribe to my YouTube page, my Twitter, my Instagram. I love you, weirdos. Stay weird. Be kind to one another. And I will see you super, super soon. All right. Take care.